Today we're going to work some more on the Kia Rio. Today's project is going to be fixing the shift lever, which is stuck, and we'll show you that in a minute. Okay, here we are in my car, and this is the problem, the shift knob. Now normally when you put your foot on the brake and you push this button, you can shift, but as you can see, I'm not able to shift. So my foot is on the brake, and the button will push a little, but not all the way, and as you can see, the lever will not move out of park. Now to alleviate this temporarily so that you can drive the car around, you can take something like a small screwdriver like this, and there's a little plastic cover that covers this hole, which I've removed, and down inside this hole, which you probably can't see in this camera, but there's a lever down in there, and that's the manual override for this thing. So if you take your screwdriver, this is going to require two hands, so I'll explain it to you. You put your little screwdriver down in there, and you'll be able to feel the lever, and you can push the lever in. And when the lever is pushed in, you can then push the button and move the handle. But you have to do this with one hand while pushing down the button with the other. And I don't have a tripod, so I'm going to do that right now. I have pushed the knob down, and once you push this knob all the way down, you can then push the button in on your shifter and it will move, as you can see. Now once you're out of park, your shifter will work normally and you can shift all the other gears. But once you put it back into park, you're then stuck again until you do the manual release. So what we're going to have to do is open up this console and take a look inside at this thing and see if we can repair it or bypass it. And that's what we're going to do next. I found the little button that goes in the hole, and I replaced it so I can show you how to remove it. Your model may be different, but somewhere on your console near this shifter there will be a little cover like this on one side or the other, somewhere around it. And you can take a little screwdriver like this and just pry it up. And then once it's loose, you should be able to just lift it out. Like that. Now you've got access to the hole where you can stick your screwdriver down and activate that lever down in there. And that's a manual override that's built into these Kias, I guess, for just this reason, in case it breaks and you can't shift otherwise. Next we'll get into taking the console apart. Now, I'm down here under the dash, and this is the center console right here. There are 4 little clips that hold this thing in place. There's 2 on this side, and there's 2 on the driver's side. I've already removed the 2 on the driver's side, and the one here, and there's 1 clip right here. And there are no screws under here, there's just a plastic clip. So what you do to remove it, you just get under it with like a screwdriver, pry it up, and it should pop right out, just like that. And that's all you have is 4 of these little plastic clips. And when working on this console, what you're going to want to do is take both seats and move them all the way back as far as you can, and recline them too, and put up your armrest if you have one. This will give you better access to everything. Now in the back here, this is a little coin holder or some such thing. It's behind the parking brake, which is here. And there's a little rubber mat inside there, and we have to remove this mat to get at one of the screws. Now on mine, there's a little tab back here in the back that I can grab hold of and just peel this right out. Get that out of the way, and there's the screw that we have to remove. The camera was not recording during the last part, but what I did is there's this little, in mine, there's a little compartment here that had this cover on it, and to remove it I had to grab the rear underneath the brake boot here, grab the rear of it with some needle nose pliers and pull up on it, and I managed to get it loose. And what's under here are 2 more screws that we have to take off. So there's the other 2 screws to take off that hold the console in. We'll take those out, and then we'll see if we can get the console out. Alright, now we've got the screws taken out underneath this console here, and it's pretty loose, so I think we can get it out. So the next step is step on the brake, put your car into on, but not start. Okay? And we need to loosen our brake thing, like we've been doing. Okay, so once you get the thing loose, just shift this all the way down to drive 1, and now we're going to try and lift the console out. So we should be able to lift it up from the back. Now be careful because you got this boot here on this thing. Not sure we're going to be able to get the boot off. Well, I may have to remove this boot first. Oh, maybe not. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. I can lift it up here. Here we go. Carefully up around the boot. I need 2 hands for this too. Solution, as I'm finding this out, is you pull up on the console and you have to sort of maneuver the boot back down inside of here as you're doing it. In this plastic piece too, you have to just kind of get them down inside the groove as you're pulling up on this, because it will stick. Okay, once it's all down in there, we should be able to lift this out. Yep, just like that. There we go. And now the center console is removed. Yay. Alright, so now we need to, the part we're going to need to look into is down in here, where all this mechanism is, with the shifters. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, we're back, and I've done some examination on how this thing works. I don't know if you can see it under here, but right here, this big black thing is a switch, and it has an arm on the front of it that actuates like this. And when you push the button on your shift lever up there, there's a little rod right here, which I don't know if you can see it, but this little rod is supposed to push down and actuate this switch. On mine, instead, the little rod is hitting a metal flange under here, so apparently wherever this switch is supposed to be in its normal standby position up here, it's not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically bypass the switch. I'm going to take and wrap a piece of wire around this arm and wrap it around probably this little frame piece here, so the switch is always in an open position. That will bypass the switch, so I'll always be able to use my shifter and I won't have to worry about it. I'm going to wrap a piece of wire and show you that in a minute. This is the wire I'm going to use. This is just some wire I bought at Lowe's. We used it to hang some lightweight objects in the house, but I just cut a length off of that, and I'm going to wrap it around inside of there and tighten it. What I did, I don't know if you can see it all the way, but back here I wrapped it around the actuator for the switch. You can see the switch is in the fully extended position now. And I just wrapped it around. This is the cable that comes in that the button, it's a switch that the button releases. So this is a stationary piece. It's mounted on this bracket. It's not going anywhere. So I tightened it around here. Back in here, you can see there's a little piece there that moves. This piece right here. I made sure that the wire wasn't in the way of that piece. That's why I wrapped it around this way instead of where I was originally going to down here. So the wire is now nowhere near where it can get in the way of that piece and interfere. And this piece here is totally stationary. It doesn't move. And that wire is pretty thick. It should last a good long time. And as you can see now, when I press the button here, it's working and I can shift without a problem. So that's working good. Now we'll put the console back together and everything should be good. Console back on and in place. I put the plastic pins back in. Do those first so the holes line up, and then you can tighten your screws back in. One there and 2 here, which I'm working on tightening right now. This thing around the brake handle is really the biggest pain. once you loosen this panel and you pull the console off, you have to sort of maneuver this thing down between the holes so you can get it off, because this part here, with the boot included, all has to stay in here while you pull the console over the top of it. And then when you go to put the console back in, you have to maneuver the stuff back through the hole again, which took a couple of screwdrivers and much bending and prying, but it's there. So I'm going to work on putting this thing back into place, and I'll be right back. I got the panel back in there. It was not easy. I did a lot of prying, and the boot's not exactly back into where it was before, but I don't really care. It's just a boot holding a stupid handbrake anyway. So the handbrake is good, back in place, and my shifter works. Now, once I bypass the switch, the only little problem there might be to it, which is not really a problem to me, but always put your foot on the brake. What we did is we bypassed a switch in here that makes it so that you cannot shift out of gear unless your foot is on the brake. And we bypassed that switch, so now it's like our foot is always on the brake. But, so when you do switch out of gear, you can change this gear without even having the key on, which I don't want to do right now because I'm parked on a hill and I'll start rolling if I put this thing in gear. But anyway, if you put your foot on the brake first, which is what you should always do when you shift out of gear anyway, always put your foot on the brake and then shift. But as you can see, we can shift without the keys even being in the ignition at all now. But that's good because at least I can shift my car without having to poke things in the holes and whatever. So for me, this is fine. So I didn't do an actual repair. I just basically did a bypass of the switch, just so that the car will function. Eventually, I'll probably take it to somewhere and get it fixed. But right now, I don't have the hundreds of dollars that would cost for, as you see, not that long. It took me maybe a half an hour total time to do this. So the hardest part is just getting the console off and on. And you kind of have to do that. You can take the cup holders out of here, like you can see, and you can actually see down into where some of the stuff is, but you can't really get at it and reach it really well unless you take the console off. So, put a cup holder right there. There we go. So for now, it's fixed. Another problem averted, and hope you like this video. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll be making more videos to come. See you soon. Bye.